albeit only a few people are here, but of course it will be available online, so others may be able to watch it later. So James is going to start recording now, and I'll take you through this kind of whistle-stop tour of the countdown to CDS imports. It's no longer a 21-day countdown, incidentally. I should have changed that slide. It's really now a 7-day countdown to the end of Chief being available. So for the purpose of today, we should really consider that the switch from Chief, the customs handling of import and export and freight system at HMRC, is reaching its end, and that either you or your colleagues in your companies should already have taken steps to make this change. But just in case they haven't, and in case you need to be checking up that they have, then I'm going to equip you hopefully today with the information you need about how to do that. Actually, I've just realised that I've picked, the reason that 21 days is there is I've picked up the wrong slide deck. But let me just stop sharing and get the right slide deck. Just 1 second, if you don't mind, because there is let me just find out where it is. Best laid plans and all that. Where are we? It kind of gets me this. How to get the right slide deck. Actually, it's not that. Okay. I'm going to use the wrong slide deck from before, but not the changes I've made. I'll just flick through the slides that are not relevant to this group, and move to that. Okay, so who we are, first of all, Chamber Customs. We are not just the customs agent, but we're also experts in the complex nature of international import and export activity, and we kind of pride ourselves in being compliant with HMRC policies and tariffs on behalf of our keeping our customers right, but also being efficient in the way that we process customs declarations and also transit documents for our clients. So we use technology to make things move faster, and we've got really knowledgeable teams. The people that do this work across the 43 locations in the UK in local chambers of commerce, have been dealing in international trade often for all of their careers, but certainly in chambers. Our DNA in international trades predates government's been involved in international trade, and in fact goes over 120 years to the creation of something called a certificate of origin that some of you will be familiar with. That was chambers that started that system, later adopted through the Geneva Convention in the early 40s to being something that governments engaged, became involved in controlling. And we support businesses large and small with import and exporting, and also our consultancy services and training to not only overcome challenges of getting import and exporting of goods right, and avoiding any risk of penalties and getting into the bad books of HMRC, but also in identifying opportunities to save on the tariff where free trade agreements exist, and also to find ways to reduce their costs related to the import and export of goods. Going to cover the chief closure a little bit. I'm going to spend a lot of time on the planning part and getting the core journey of switching to CGS right, and talk a little bit about how we can support our move, and then deal later with any questions that any of you might have. I'll try to deal with them today, given how many people are in the room. That shouldn't be a problem. So Chief is closing after the 30th of September. Import declarations close on Chief, and after the 31st of March, export declarations close on Chief, and on the national exporting system goes. There was a slight change to that, in that only I think on Tuesday, Tuesday 2 days ago, HMRC announced that actually businesses could apply for a 1-month extension to the use of Chief for imports. but you had to say why you needed that extension. And in fact, Chamber Customs, we applied for it automatically for our clients, and we were approved. Beyond the 31st of October, businesses could still ask for a further extension to the use of chief, but in that case, they have to make a very substantive reason, or provide a very substantive reason for needing to continue to use chief. It wouldn't be good enough just to say, well, I'm not ready yet. It would be not good enough to say that. It would need to be a reason whereby, for example, there are a small number of tariff codes that CDS cannot yet cope with because they have additional information that's required alongside, and they don't seem to be working. So unless those are not resolved by the end of October, pretty much businesses need to have switched to CDS for import by 31 October now. And that doesn't mean that they have to continue to use chief. Most of our customers, many are already using CDS in any case, as we've been entering goods in CDS for some months now. And if declarants and traders they represent really need to be not preparing, my new set of slides says should be ready for their move to CDS now. So it's here, it's present, there's no point in waiting any longer. Reason why chief is closing was principally because it's really old. It's not a very flexible system for HMRC to interrogate and to use intelligence-led investigation to identify where businesses may be erring on their customs duty payments or the declaration of VAT more particularly. And so the new system is Union Customs Code compliant. Now, whilst we are no longer part of the European Union, our government and legislators have chosen to remain compliant with the Union Customs Code legislation, and it also deals with the operation of the UK and the EU tariffs, again, because pragmatically, many of our businesses are still, are in Northern Ireland, for example, or are operating across borders. And it also has the flexibility to grow in line with the government's ambitious trade plans and to become the world's most efficient customs system by 2025. So that possibility remains for businesses. In terms of planning your move, migrating to CDS will require some planning. You will need to have either CDS-ready software if you're self-representing, or a customs agent that is also CDS-ready if you're delegating. And I have to tell you that our experience shows that not all freight forwarders, hauliers, or customs agents are CDS-ready. And we know that because the number that are contacting us for help in understanding the processes, or indeed attending our training courses to have their customs agent trained. And also there's a requirement to update the instructions that you provide to your broker, agent, or haulier or freight forwarder, because CDS requires a number of different data elements that Chief doesn't. And so they need to have those that information, that instruction from you. As 95% of imports, for example, in the UK and exports are carried out under something called direct representation, meaning we only carry out what you tell us to do. And so you will need to update the instructions you provide. And certainly some of the considerations on that are, the systems changes, communicating between parties, you and your freight forwarder, about what's required in your freight forwarder or agent and you. And also considering the authorizations you might have, for example, inward and outward processing authorizations and others, licensing and the like. There can be changes in the way that those are dealt with within CDS compared to Chief, and so you need to be ready internally with your teams to understand the records you must keep, the way that you must instruct, and the way that you have to operate those existing authorizations. The journey, there's really 5 stages to the journey. Not every business will need to apply all of the stages, but anyway, there are 5 and I'll explain them. The first is the registering for the government gateway. Now, most businesses will already be registered in the government gateway, and most businesses in the UK will already have a GB EORI number because they're trading in the UK, and they have that. The second thing is then, second stage, if you have those things, is to take your unique taxpayer reference, often held by the finance team because they're dealing with your regular VAT returns and the like, and the EORI number to gain access to the CDS module within the government gateway. And then once you're in there, it allows you to understand and determine the level of perhaps upskilling required against existing authorizations. So you need to do that anyway, that's outside of the gateway. But you need to understand those requirements and any authorizations you may hold. And it's also a good time, we found this with traders, it's a good time to reflect on just what record keeping you have against those authorizations. If you're operating inward processing as manufacturers or outward processing, you're doing repair of goods and the like. Just how are you managing those authorizations? What records are you keeping, and are they the correct records, or have you left yourself vulnerable to audit and HMRC requests for more information that could result in penalties? We're not only seeing businesses for whom sometimes that is the case, so we come in and we do an audit and we find that they've got some gaps, and we can help them to fill those gaps and to retrieve the information they require to update their records, or other opportunities actually can be where businesses have been since Brexit Day paying double VAT. So they're paying VAT in the UK and VAT in Europe, and actually there can be the opportunity to use customs warehousing in the UK, where the operation of customs warehousing has been the authorization qualification has been changed, and so a lot of traders can designate an area of their existing warehouse to be under customs control, and they can manage the avoidance of paying VAT for goods, raw materials as they arrive in the UK, and then paying VAT again as the goods enter into, for example, the European community. So there are opportunities, and so taking a reflective view can be useful at this point in time. The next stage is when you're in the government gateway, you then need to deal with methods of payment and understand that there are 3 methods of payment under CDS. Something called the Flexible Accounting System, FAS, that exists in Chief, doesn't exist in CDS, and is replaced by something really that's referred to as the cash account. So there's duty deferment account, cash account are the 2 principal ways that you would use as a method of payment for duty and VAT. And ironically, even if you have import goods that are 0 rated for VAT and 0 rated for duty, you still need to have a cash account set up. Even if you have no money in it, you have to go through that process in case there is a change in the tariff that requires payment to be made. And so here you are setting up the direct debit instruction, the standing authority, and the method of payment details within the government gateway. And even if you have a duty deferment account that you're utilising in Chief, you need to set up a new direct debit instruction to be utilised in CDS. You need to get details of the standing authority and pass that to your broker, agent, freight forwarder, whoever is going to operate your imports and exports for you. And you need to instruct them. Part of your instructions to them on a declaration will be the method of payment that you want to apply at that time, whether it's your duty deferment account or your cash account. And then the final stage, which is really past now for imports in CDS, would be to make sure that your software provider can give you access to the trader dress rehearsal. This is a kind of test area of CDS, and for you to be able to submit some test declarations if you indeed submit your own declarations, or pass some test details to your freight forwarder and ask them to check and approve that you are providing all the information they would need to make a CDS customs entry. It's worth noting at this point that making incorrect entries or non-compliant entries into CDS is no more difficult than it was in Chief. Your agents, your freight forwarders, your customs brokers that you may be utilising or may be doing the work for you can very easily and without any problem submit an entry that will get through the chief or CDS software and be approved by HMRC for the goods to have permission to proceed, but it can still be a wrong entry. And so it's incumbent on businesses as the declarants to ensure that they have all the knowledge they need to instruct their customs provider to ensure that the entry that they have made or has been made on their behalf is correct. So this is a good point in time to check that your teams have all the knowledge and all the skills they need to be able to do that work effectively and compliantly on behalf of your business. So prerequisite is get into the government gateway account. If you have an EORI number that isn't preceded by GB, you need to get one. That's as much as I'm going to say at this point on that. Getting access to CDS I've already covered, and you can go to the financial dashboard. And it's worth pointing out that the way that CDS utilises or takes information is different from Chief again. Actually, it's quite well developed and logical. So there are a number of questions that the HMRC is trying to address, and what they've done in the architecture of CDS is set up groups of data that relate to those things. So, for example, Group 3 is the parties involved. That would be the importer, the exporter from one country, the importer in a new in this country, and any other parties involved in the transaction, like the customs agent and so on. And all of the questions related to parties are in data elements 3. The haulier, the vehicle, the truck, all that kind of stuff is held within there. And so there is more logic to the way that CDS is set up, and therefore logic is good to help understanding. But unless you understand that these 99 data elements are thereabouts that CDS could require are grouped into these 8 groups, it can just look like a mountain of questions to be answered. And not every data element needs to be completed for every customs declaration, but you do need to understand where they do need to be completed, where the data will be required in order that the declaration is put through. I did see, for example, I'm hearing from a freight forwarder who's a member of one of our chambers who's frustrated at their ability to get some test entries through. And they keep asking us to comment and HMRC to comment on what they might have got wrong. They're doing a trial and error approach rather than, which is not really a great thing to do. Trial and error will eventually get you a declaration through, but it might still be the wrong declaration. So it's important to understand what the requirements are and make sure that not only does your freight forwarder understand that, but does your logistics and sales or whoever it is that instructs them, do they understand it? Some examples of the data requirements for exports, in addition to those that are required in Chief, and it wouldn't surprise you to know that HMRC are looking at CDS as a way of addressing some of the knowledge gaps that they have. They have a number of mandatory data elements that are required for export. Again, not all will apply. Guarantee details and additional fiscal references are rarely required, but gross max and route countries and transport charges, method of payment and carrier information absolutely required in CDS and must be included. And then there's some optional data elements that may be required in some circumstances, and your broker or agent should be advising when those are required on an entry. So that's for export. For import, again, a number of additional data elements that are required that you wouldn't typically be supplying to your customs broker at this time. One of those being Incoterms was optional in CDS. You could include them or not. So this is the kind of X works, deliver duty paid, free carrier aboard type of agreement that you've reached in the contract with the business you're selling to or buying from, and they have to be included in CDS and have to be part of the instruction that you supply. The CDS tariff, also, not surprisingly, different to the HMRC tariff. And so everyone that's providing an instruction needs to familiarise themselves with the complete and import customs declaration steps. And the time involved in this will depend on the scale and the complexity of not only your organisation and your relationship with your buyers and sellers, but also the complexity of the goods that you are trading. And in manufacturing, typically manufacturers take raw materials and transform them. So that both provides a degree of complexity, but also some opportunities for those things that I referred to earlier, like customs warehousing, avoidance of double duty payments, double VAT payments, and the like. And we're seeing quite a number of manufacturers, and we're working with manufacturers that actually haven't understood the opportunity that can exist at this time. It's not a CDS opportunity as such, it's a post-Brexit day opportunity to reduce some of the burdens that have come to businesses since that point in terms of double duty, double tariff, and also cash flow with things like postponed VAT accounting and the like. We can help you to understand that. So it's a good time to review whether you want to continue doing in-house customs declarations if you're doing them, because some additional training involved and so on, or use an accredited customs agent instead of bundling everything in with, say, the freight company who lift and shift the goods and also carry out the your responsibility, carry out the customs responsibilities on your behalf, and who may not be expert in that area, where really businesses need an expert to operate in that area. And we would say that, as I said at the top, Chamber Customs are one of those expert companies. I'm not going into the detail in this in any way, shape or form, other than to say in the deck that you will receive, the proper one, you will see all of these links to government gateway areas for the various appendices to the tariff that are really important to understand, how to navigate the tariff, and some other things like the integrated online tariff tool that will help to identify the duty that you'll pay on goods, and also to understand what the tariff code is for the goods that you are buying or selling. Some of you may be familiar with Chief Box 44, and that existed within Chief, which is a fairly complex series of instructions in computer code, frankly. But actually, data element 2 is the chapter, 3 is the data element within that chapter. The authorization decision number has to be declared, and there are 54 codes that relate to those authorization decisions. So again, you wouldn't be using 54 of them, but in the relationships you have with your business, there will be one or more, maybe 2 or 3, that you would typically use in your instruction. It's important to understand which would apply to your business and which and those of them that you can largely ignore. And gov.uk has more information on that. And if you're using an intermediary, you'll need to be ready to provide them with the proper clearance instructions for CDS. It's fair to say you should have been in Chief, but oftentimes what happens over 30 years is that people provide the same instruction despite the fact the tariff may have been amended or the commodity code may have been amended in that time. I talked earlier about the need to go into the government gateway and set out the methods of payment. There are 3 options here. One is the use of a duty deferment account, and again, we come across some businesses that are still operating the duty deferment account they had before Brexit Day, secured with either cash or a bond, and they haven't caught up in the fact that there is a guarantee waiver available to them that can save them both cash flow if they're holding a cash account, or fees to an insurer for the bond each year. And these are readily available. It's not a complicated application process, and HMRC will award you a guarantee waiver, remove the need for you to hold that cash or that bond based on your previous trading. They'll automatically give you £10,000 a month if you're of good standing with HMRC, and most firms are. But you can increase that up the way based on history of trading. If you were operating at £100,000 a month then, and you were clearing your debt, and each month then HMRC would give you a waiver up to that amount is our experience of applying for them on behalf of traders. They don't seem to be at issue when you have a history of trading. So there's a saving opportunity there, but your duty of deferment account must be set up, and a direct debit instruction must be created for CDS payments, even if you have chief payments in place. The chief one has to remain in case there's any outstanding payments required in chief. There is the cash account system that's set up. Now, you can both load money into the cash account and withdraw money from the cash account. So that cash account is a very, very much more flexible system for the business than FAS ever was. If you paid into FAS, it took you months to get any money back if you were due it. With the cash account, they'll only draw on the money that's required to be taken from the cash account at any time. So it is literally a cash account. HMRC can't just dip into it and take money from it. It has to be on the basis of import declarations that you have made and duty and VAT that may be required. And it can also be used as a top-up to your duty of deferment account. If you were to be in a situation where you had utilised fully your duty deferment account, you can use the cash account to top that up in any given month. And also you can opt to make immediate payment. So theoretically, well, actually in practice, we could make a CDS entry on behalf of a client that hadn't gone through the CDS registration process, and if there were any duty and VAT requirements, payments to be made before releasing the goods from the border, we could take an immediate payment to do that. So there's multiple methods of payment on CDS. I'm not going to dwell on these. This is just some screenshots of what your financial dashboard looks like when you have access to it. You get full visibility on each of the elements that you may have in play: duty deferment, cash account, and any general guarantee account that you might have in play. Each of them give you very detailed. You can drill down into checking previous statements and what payments have been made. Same with duty deferment. You can view your statements. And you can get details of any of your account and any transactions therein, and likewise on the general guarantee accounts, and very detailed information available there. So a much more open system for tracking any payments of duty and VAT that may have been made are taken from your account in any given time. There's lots of gov.uk guidance, I mean, like stacks of it, and we've given you some links to some of those pages to help you just navigate that. And HMRC is also has also developed, isn't developing, has developed video content about the steps to take to move to CDS and the CDS trade tariff, and those are broken down into little bite-sized chunks of about 3 minutes each. So if anyone in your teams needs to see what's required at any particular time, they can go and look at those videos, or they can come to our website where we've got some video explainers of this kind of stuff as well. I'm ignoring these. Let me just go back one, I think. Yeah, there's been some support from HMRC in streamlining. We lobby HMRC on various matters where we know that that some of the changes they make are not going to be helpful to businesses. They're just going to include unnecessary administration. And actually, we got a waiver for document code 999L, which I'm not going into the detail of, but we succeeded in getting that. And also, with the buyer or seller differ from the importer or exporter, there's additional information being added on that. Currently, we are lobbying for a change to the requirements for the vehicle, the origin of the vehicle that's transporting goods into the UK, the nationality of the driver, and the registration requirements. They're currently needed at pre-lodgement, where you're pre-lodging for goods that you know are going to arrive in the UK. And then they're submitted secondarily at the point where they're truly known, which is when a GVMS entry is made for the government, the goods vehicle movement system, to generate a GMR, a goods movement reference. That's the point when that information is truly known. It's more often not known at the point of pre-lodgement, where it's a statutory requirement at the moment. So we are lobbying to have the requirement shifted so that the information is transmitted to HMRC on the GMR at the point of the GMR being generated, and not on pre-lodgement. So if that happens, you know where you heard it first, and you know who is doing that work. And we've been filing import and export declarations in CDS for some months. We've got Joe running in, with Chief in place, and we've extended that out to 31st of October. We are very prepared to do CDS entries because we're doing them day and daily, as are our staff. So if you were minded to want to have a look at utilising our services, then we're very ready for this change. And if you're concerned about your current suppliers being a bit less ready, then we're very happy to step in, and my colleagues on the call, Sam and Faye, will be ready to talk to you about that. And if you're doing your own entries, you absolutely need to be sure that your software provider is ready, is there, and that the team that you have that are utilising that software have had the technical training required to be able to make compliant entries. We offer two versions of our service. One is our fast track clearance. That really uses technology through our Exabler platform, our Exabler portal, which we provide with no cost to the customers that use it. But basically, it enables you to take data that probably already exists within your enterprise systems of your company. It exists somewhere. The data on a commercial invoice exists somewhere in your finance systems. So we draw on that data that already exists. We map it to CDS data entry points, and we basically allow you then to upload a CSV or Excel file, any data file, to the portal and pre-populate your customs entry. That therefore replaces the instruction that you would give to a forwarder, typically an email with an instruction and some documents attached. So we replicate that process and provide the instruction through the transmission of data. And we give full visibility to the customer on each stage of the transaction. So when we submit it, we check it, we send it, a bit like passport check and send. We check and send the declaration that you want to have made to HMRC down their pipes. We claim the cargo at the port if it's appropriate to do that for an import. And at each stage, you get a live feed of and traffic light system that shows you at which stage of the process your entry is. So there's no more people phoning their freight forwarder to find out, have you picked up the goods yet? Have you picked up the goods yet? Have you picked up the goods yet? Or have they cleared, have they cleared, have they cleared? We deal with the clearance. You can see it in real time that the goods have cleared, and therefore can instruct your haulier to go and collect the goods. And it does often free businesses up from being tied to doing their customs declarations with the transport company or the freight forwarder. It frees them up to get more competitive pricing on the haulage, the movement of goods, than they maybe were able to do otherwise. And actually, by using our fast track system, the people that use it increasingly learn about the data elements and deepen their understanding of the declaration they're making. The other option is fully assisted. So you either send us some spreadsheet of data and we do all the keying for you and the upload for you, or you send us an email with some attachments and we do it all for you. So we've got both versions are available. The one on the right, fully assisted. If you're doing 10 declarations or less in a month, probably that's the way you're going to go. If you're doing more than 10 in a month, fast track is the way to go in data uploads. You will save time, you'll have more visibility, and also importantly, you've got a depository then for every customs declaration you've made, so that if you are audited or ask for more information, you go into Exabler and you'll find the information you need related to the declarations you made. The big challenges are really the readiness of your external parties. Imports are all online. There is no longer a C88 output from a CDS entry, although we have many customers who are printing off copies of it. There's a shift that people need to make, which is that this is a digital world that we're in. So printing off pieces of paper is really unnecessary. HMRC is only ever going to interrogate the data, not pieces of paper. So as long as the stuff is online, that's the way to go, and that's the way to be able to deal with any future issues. And then readiness of the supply chain, like hauliers and other agents, to be able to deal with and understand what a CDS entry looks like, and also where they're going to get that data, because they need to integrate with the digital system. The future of our border is digital, folks. It's not paper, and 2025 sees the best in class border operating, and it's purely digital. There's no paper involved. So businesses, hauliers, freight agents, everyone needs to be ready for that, and they need to be ready for it now. The future is now. Any questions, therefore? I'm going to hand back to James. He knows you and knows me, and we can deal with any questions that you may have, may want to pose with regard to this switcheroo. Thank you, James.
Liam, thank you very much. Are there any questions from anyone else that's on the call at the moment? If not, I did have one that popped through. You were talking about on the system, you can upload information in terms of products and various bits. And you said, obviously, depending on where you're importing or exporting to or from, it will require different information. If you upload all of that onto the system, will it retain that? So in terms of, I think what this question is trying to get to is, if you upload all your data for, say, a standard product, will it just pull the relevant data it needs each time, or do you need to continually re-upload that to the system?
No, you have to re-upload. Sorry, when you say it, do you mean when you make a declaration?
Yeah, I think this is talking about a specific product. So if you're making a declaration for one country and you then need to switch it to a second later,
right? So I mean,
down the line.
Yeah. So if you were using our Exabler platform, then the answer is kind of no. So if I give you an example, if you had an importer you were regularly importing to, or an exporter you're regularly exporting to, you upload some of that content for the first time only. And let's say that you always send 1,000 boxes a month to a particular exporter. Then on the Exabler platform, you can replicate the entry. So you can say, give me another one of those, please. The date has changed, the time has changed, maybe even the port has changed, but I'm just doing the same thing again. You can replicate that export or that import, because you always send 1,000 boxes. Or even if you sent 1,000 boxes last month, but you're sending 900 this month, you can replicate it and then amend 1,000 to 900 and adjust the weights. So absolutely, you can do that. And likewise, if you were replicating, but you're now sending it to Germany, not France, then you can replicate most of it and change it, and change the country and the client. Also, your clients, your importer, the businesses you're buying from, businesses you're selling to, once you've created them once within the system, then they're there. That trade is there. So you can operate the system manually in that way, but the glory of Exabler is actually for businesses that have, say, multiple entries, multiple declarations with multiple commodity codes. It can cope with you doing a single upload for multiple transactions with multiple commodity codes in one go, and it will sort the information and order it into the places that it needs to go. So you can either do it for a single import, single export, or with multiple commodity codes or multiple exports. So our biggest client does 4 uploads a day, because they've got about 1,000 transactions a month. So they do, I think it's 10, 12, 2 and 4 each day. They do an upload of the movements that they've got, or the entries they need to make at each of those times. If there's nothing, they don't do it. But the team that do that then go into the enterprise system. They basically run a report in their enterprise system in their SAP system at those times. And if there's any data, then they upload it and send it through, and we make the entries happen for them. I hope that answers the question, James.
Got it. Yeah, no, I think so. I think that's where we were coming from on that one. Is there anyone else on the call that's got any questions? Either feel free to unmute yourselves or use the raise hand or chat functions. If not, as previously mentioned, this will be available online, and it may be that you're watching this online. If you are, then obviously feel free to drop me any questions and I can forward those on. If that's all right with you, Liam.
Absolutely, James. Be happy to receive them. And likewise, if any of your members now or in the future would like our assistance, we stand ready to help those businesses to do this work. I should say that typically when we go into a business, we don't, we are part of the Chamber Network, where Chamber Network and BCC are not for dividend organisations, we're a member organisation. We don't set out to be the cheapest in the market, we don't do that. But what we typically find is that when businesses that work with us report a significant reduction in their port charges, the way that we manage the recharging of port fees for import typically presents a reduction of about 40%. And also we are often, because as the Chamber of Commerce, we want to reduce red tape and reduce costs for trading. We do our best to ensure that businesses are able to take advantage of all of the authorizations that are appropriate for them. And so we can apply our consultancy services to save significant amounts. Can I just mention one manufacturer that we are dealing with at the moment, we've been consulting with. They've identified that through a change in processes, that they will save £100,000 annually recurring just from duty savings. So they're paying duty twice for the goods. Once when they bring the raw materials into the UK or into GB, and secondly when they pay the duty, because they're delivering duty paid, when they pay the duty at the in the EU to their clients in the EU for the finished goods. So that's £100,000 a saving for a pretty, not a massive company either, just on that piece, never mind the cash flow savings from properly operating postponed VAT accounting and other some other elements. That's £100,000 in duty alone. There are big opportunities here.
And is that, sorry, in terms of a sort of typical company size you work with, is there a specific target you have? Do you tend to favour SMEs, or do you work with companies of all sizes?
All sizes. I mean, sweet spot would be manufacturing businesses over 5 million turnover. That would be the sweet spot. But we're happy to work with anyone, big or small, and to help them to be more efficient and more cost effective in trading internationally. Because you know what? We want to grow the volume of exports and exporting companies in the UK, because that drives their economy, and that's really important to the British Chambers of Commerce and to Chamber Customs as a company owned by that organisation.
Great stuff, great stuff. All right, well, look, if there are any other questions, feel free to drop me a line after this, and I will forward those on. Again, if there's any particular areas that people have got questions on, it may be after the 1st of October we start getting a few more questions, then obviously feel free to drop me a line. But otherwise, just a massive thank you for this morning, Liam. Much appreciated. And
it's my pleasure.
Hopefully we can do a follow-up session in the future.
It would be great to do that, James. Thank you for your time, and thank you very much for inviting us along. We do appreciate it.
No worries. Thank you all very much for joining us.
Bye, everyone. Bye-bye.